Hello, this is William C. Delaney, and welcome back to My Novel Experience. Today we're going to talk about fencing.
So you're probably asking yourself, why would an author be doing a podcast on a subject like that? Well, the novels I write for my trilogy take place in the late 18th century. And so my characters are actually involved in a great deal of swordplay and fencing. And when I write, I like to be accurate. I like to experience what they experience so I can write them properly. I like to think how they think. For instance, my characters hunt and shoot. And in my youth, I did a lot of hunting, a lot of shooting, so I know that topic quite well. My characters ride horses, and in my youth, I rode horses often, and so I know that topic pretty well. Ran into a problem. One of the areas where I didn't have a great deal of understanding and didn't feel I was properly versed to write them was fencing. And so to rectify that, I took fencing lessons. When I tell people I took fencing lessons for my writing, they usually give me one of two reactions. Either they smile politely and assume I've seen The Princess Bride too many times, or they look at me as though I'm preparing for a duel at dawn. But the truth is actually simpler. I simply wanted to write swashbuckling scenes that felt real. Not Hollywood, not fantasy, but rooted in the world of 18th century France. And to do that, I needed to pick up a saber and try it. At this point, I'd like to give credit to where credit is due. I want to thank the Plymouth Ann Arbor Fencing Academy for allowing me to take lessons there, and especially thank their exceptional staff. So this episode is about fencing, its history, its quirks, and why learning it changed the way that I wrote stories. Before fencing was elegant, it was desperate: life, death, or maimed. In medieval and Renaissance Europe, learning to use a sword wasn't a hobby. It was really how you stayed alive. But as cities matured and became more cultured, walking around with a longsword became rather frowned upon. So smaller and lighter and more decorative swords were developed. Urban self-defense schools started popping up everywhere, and suddenly fencing wasn't just battlefield training, it became a way of life. By the 16th and 17th centuries, Europe had developed an obsession with dueling. In places like Paris and London, noblemen were losing their lives in illegal duels, so often that governments outlawed the practice. Not unexpectedly, it really didn't stop anything. In fact, dueling began to possess an even more rebellious mystique, and fencing masters became celebrities in their own right. By the time my Vicomte characters were alive, late 18th century, the weapon of choice was the rapier, lightweight, fast, and deadly. However, it actually became more than just a weapon. It became a fashion statement. A gentleman's must-have accessory, a bit like wearing a luxury watch today, except this watch could get you killed if you handled it poorly. This was the point in time where fencing transformed into something more refined, almost mathematical. French and Italian maestros debated philosophy, angle, leverage, as passionately as modern people debate politics online. More polished footwork and vernacular started being used: riposte, pass beats, thrusts, and parries. In fact, the now infamous word touché was originally not meant to be dramatic or romantic. It literally meant, "You hit me, please don't stab me again." Practicing with real swords required a certain level of humility and trust, because without protection, a clean hit could become a fatal one. This is also why fencing masks were invented, and that happened in the late 1700s. Believe it or not, people originally hated it. They said it was cowardly. It wasn't. It saved face. Lots of them. Fencing's not only a physical sport, although I struggled with that. It's also very mental and psychological. Fencing is a discipline. Not unlike writing, it requires you to develop your own technique, footwork, balance, muscle memory, eye-to-hand reaction. You have to learn how to watch your opponent's tendencies hands and feet. And here's a surprise. Let me tell you what I never expected. Fencing didn't just teach me how to describe combat, it taught me how my characters think. Because in fencing, everything is psychological: timing, patience, deception, fear, confidence. I learned that a duel wasn't two people swinging metal at each other, but rather it's two minds trying to outwit one another at lightning speed. And I can tell you from personal experience, the moment you lunge for the first time, blade extended, your weight shifting forward, you suddenly understand why duels mattered so much to men and women of the 18th century. It was honor, it was pride, sometimes it was desperation. It's all there in that single moment. So taking fencing lessons reminded me of something very important about storytelling. You can only fake authenticity for so long. Eventually, you have to step into your character's shoes, or in this case, their boots, and feel the world as they felt it. When I picked up a saber for the first time, I wasn't just learning a technique. I was connecting to the past, to young men of France and beyond who lived and died by their skills at arms, to their fears, their bravado, their humanity. And that, at least for me, is what makes writing worth all the effort.
This is my novel experience, and I'm William C. Delaney. If you've enjoyed this journey into the history and craft of fencing, please like and subscribe. And maybe you could share this with a friend, someone you like to duel with, literally and otherwise.
Until next time, stay curious and stay on guard. Oh, and if you're interested in swashbuckling and swordplay, please check out the 2 novels in my Vicon trilogy. I think you'll enjoy them.